Well, if you're watching this in the future and you're wondering why I'm not talking, it's because I don't see anyone on here yet. So I'm just going to kind of hang out for a minute until I see some people showing up. Or if you are watching and I'm not seeing you, okay, I see somebody's here. Hello, Jennifer. All right, now people are starting to come in. I guess the indicator on my screen says there's only one person here, but judging by the amount of comments coming in, that's not true. So that's a big relief, because it's kind of awkward to just sit here and wait. Yeah, it still says there's only one person, so I'm not gonna look at that anymore. I'm gonna look at the comments coming in. So thank you everybody for showing up. I appreciate it. Sorry there was no video this morning. This time of year, things are getting crazy. It kind of started when we went to Texas, because we weren't really, I shouldn't say we weren't planning on it, but it was kind of a last minute thing for us to go there. And since that happened, it's just been like one thing after another, and finding time to get things done, finding time to film has been a bit of a challenge here recently. And yesterday I spent all day on the tractor getting the field disked, and then by the time I got home, it was late. I was tired, and I knew that if I tried to edit that video, that I would have been up till 12 or 1, and you can only do that so many times in a row, right? So all right, I see a bunch of people getting in here now. Thank you for showing up, and thank you everybody for all the questions that you guys submitted yesterday. So I was I was answering a bunch of them while I was driving the tractor, but I haven't gone back and watched that footage yet. So I don't know what the audio is going to be like. I hope it's not too bad. I think, I don't know. There might be a lot of background noise, but we'll see. I think it'll be watchable, but it might not be exactly what I was hoping it would be. Wow, we've got someone from Hungary and Canada. I always enjoy seeing where everybody is from. So usually, if you guys have watched many of my live streams before, you know that I usually do them in the afternoon, my time. And today I wanted to try to do one at a different time on a different day, to kind of see if I could do it during a time where it was easy for other people to watch. If I do them all at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for somebody in Australia or wherever they might be, even on the East Coast, that might not be convenient. So, but yeah, maybe a Saturday morning isn't the best time for everyone either. So, I think I'm just gonna start with some updates of things that may or may not make it to film. And just because, for one, the meat birds were all harvested the other day. And when I went to do that, I brought my camera, but that's such a difficult thing to film, because a lot of stuff you can't show, and then you kind of get into a point where you're not really sure what you can show and what you can't show. So something like that, I've made videos about it before, and it's been all right, but it does kind of seem like the guidelines change over time, and things that used to be okay are no longer okay. So you don't know. So I didn't end up filming any of the chicken harvest, not to mention that I was really trying to get all of them done in the same day. And when you film something, it ends up taking a lot longer. And I met the goal. I think we had 26 chickens, something like that. And I did get them all. I swear there was a time a couple years ago when I did 38 in the same day. But after the other day, just doing those 26, I don't know how that would have been possible. So I still feel like I did that once, but I don't think I could do it again. That was a lot of work, and it takes a long time. Now I've still got to package everything and do that. So I'll tell you, eating the chicken is good. I like having that supply of meat, but harvesting that chicken is not my favorite part of the whole process, that's for sure. So the chickens are done, which is good. I did a lot better with this batch than I did with the last batch. They ended up going way over finished, and I struggled to get a lot of those in the bags. And if you're a new viewer, or if you just don't remember, my first batch from this year, I think they were like, it's almost embarrassing to admit it, but I think they were 3 or 4 months old before I finally got them done. And as a result, as you would imagine, some of them were like as big as small turkeys, so they're really difficult to get in the bags. And just, you know, nothing about that, I guess, was good. This batch was much better. I harvested them in a timely manner, and I've so far not had any trouble getting them bagged, which has been nice. I do still want to build one of those deals. Usually people make them out of PVC pipe, where you just set the chicken on there and you can pull the bag down. That would be nice, but I want to make one out of stainless steel, which I've not done a lot of stainless welding, but I think that would be a great job to practice on, because if it breaks, it really doesn't matter. I can just go ahead and fix it, and it's not like a critical structural weld where if it fails, someone gets injured. So yeah, I think we'll be doing that probably this winter. I got to make my way up to the steel yard one of these days. I was actually gonna go the other day when I went up and got the bulk pig feed, but just didn't end up having time, so that didn't happen. But we got wind noise. I could move. I was unsure if that was going to be a problem here or not. Is that not sounding good to you guys? Let me know. Wind noise, good, okay, bad? RIP meat chickens for sure. So the meat chickens are done. Disking is now done, finally. So the hay field, we're moving along. Okay. Most people are saying it's all right. Let me try, let's see. Because I despise wind noise. So let's see if we go in the barn here a little bit more, if it's any better. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, now I don't have anywhere to put the phone. On this channel, we only do professional, well thought out live streams, as you're seeing now. You know what? I got a better idea. Is my hand interfering with the microphone at all, I guess is the question now, because it's kind of, I feel like covering it, but I don't know. Maybe people are getting tired of watching me sit in front of a haystack. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be better on this side of the barn for sure. The question is, can I get this chain open with one hand? I'm gonna put you guys down for a quick second. Enjoy the sky. All right. We'll go hang out here in the corral. I think this will be a little bit less windy. It's sunny back here. It's actually kind of nice. So this will be a good spot to do it. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Disking is done now, which is great. That's, it's not that I don't like doing tillage work, but it's a lot of hours, you know, and it's tough. Like yesterday, for example, I knew I was going to be out there all day, so you really don't get anything else done except for that one thing that you set out to do. And I did, but you know, that's how it goes. Oh, I see someone asking, did I ever anchor down the crush, the squeeze chute? No, I didn't. It is still just sitting on the load bars from the scale. I've got it shimmed up so that it doesn't wobble, and I've not bolted it down. You guys know I've ran the cows through this thing several times, and it really just hasn't been an issue. So I'm kind of considering maybe not bolting it down. I just don't know that it's necessary because it's, it's not going to fall over. That was kind of the concern with that old chute because it was really narrow on the bottom, and I was just worried that if a cow got in there and started rocking around that she might be able to tip it over, which I've actually seen this happen, or it's kind of a version of that before. And when a cow is in a squeeze chute and she tips it over, it is a very ugly scene. It is not something that you want to have happen. In fact, I could go ahead and tell you that story right now. So this happened over at the winter pasture. And I don't know if you guys, I don't know if I've ever really shown it, but there is a squeeze chute over there. It's called a Teco, is the brand, Teco. You don't see them anymore. I don't think the company exists any longer, but they were old. They were like a reddish orange color, and they, the body squeeze only moved on one side, and it was advertised as a dehorning chute. And what made it different was that the head gate on the Teco, as opposed to the Aeroquip, I'll see if I can kind of explain this. So the head gate was basically like a solid gate with a triangular shaped hole in the front. And when the cow stuck her head through that hole, it had a little locking arm that would lock behind her ears. And this, to its credit, it would hold their heads really well. But to release them from that chute, you would open the locking arm and then open that front gate, and then the cow would step out of the chute. So if you've got a mellow cow, it's fine. But what can happen is you can have a not so mellow cow, and when she feels that head gate release, she pushes forward. So what happened, we were working cows over at the winter pasture. I used to do the cows over there, and this event is actually what kind of changed that. But we were working the cows, vaccinating them, and we had one cow, when they opened that front gate to let her loose, she pushed on it and her head like stayed in the gate. So as the gate opened, her head stayed in it, and she ended up pushing, and she tipped the whole chute over with her head in it. Now, somehow in the chaos, she got her head out and the cow was not injured. She escaped this. It all happened so fast, and it was several years ago now, so I don't really remember it that great. But I mean, I remember the main points of what happened, obviously. So she knocked the chute over, which is one thing. But what made it even worse was that one of Max's sons was helping, and he was standing right next to the chute because he was the chute guy, and he narrowly escaped jumping out of the way of that chute when it tipped over. So that was bad. That was not. As soon as that happened, I said, you know what? I think we're just going to do cows back here because, at that time, this was all pretty new. And I thought, I invested all the money and the time to build this setup. Why not just use it and avoid those kind of potential problems? So that chute should have been bolted down. The old Powder River chute was probably 50-50. I don't know if a cow could have tipped it over. It might have been able to. I don't think anything's tipping the Aeroquip over because it's pretty wide on the bottom. And, once they're in here and you got them squeezed down, they can't really get a lot of side-to-side force. They can get a lot of forward and backward force, but, to put it in perspective, I pretty well know where I set this thing on the slab just based off of like where it is in relation to the alleyway, and it has not moved. And I've sent the calves through here several times. I've sent the cows through at least once and it hasn't moved. And then part of that too could be that they seem a lot calmer going through the Arrow Quip. They don't, like with the Powder River, when you would get them to go, some of them, like number 20, she was notorious for this. When she decided she was going to get in the chute, she just started running and didn't stop until she crashed into the head gate. And if a chute wasn't bolted down and a cow is doing that, it's probably going to start sliding forward a little bit. But this one, they just don't do that because I think it's open on the bottom more. They just feel a little bit better walking through it. And it's a lot longer too, so I don't think they have that like claustrophobic feeling when they go in it, so they don't panic. So long way of saying I might anchor this down at some point, but I'm not, you know, sitting here thinking I need to do it like right away. I want to just try something. I feel like my arm's getting shaky. I'm not used to holding my phone up that long. But can you guys hear me good? I'm a little bit further away from the phone right now, so if the audio is bad, we'll find a better spot, but I think for now this is going to be all right. All right. Good deal. Good deal. Sorry. I have a difficult time talking and reading the comments at the same time. So, and we should have like no wind noise back here, right? It feels super still. The barn is a great windbreak. So, all right. Good deal. Good deal. So, that is the answer for the chute. I don't think we're worrying about it too much. It's just, I'm just using it now and it's been awesome. So all right, I see a few people asking about barn cats, and that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I have been wanting to talk about. I've been looking around in the barn. To my knowledge, I still have that black cat that I think I showed that on the trail camera a month ago or you know, whenever it was. I'm pretty sure that cat is still in there. I haven't put the trail camera in here in a while to look for it, but I've noticed that the food is disappearing. So either the cat is still in there or I've got, you know, a possum or skunk or whatever else might like to eat cat food. I suppose almost anything would. But I do still, I've got some leads on some kittens that I can turn loose out here. And I'm hoping that I can get those soon because I have been looking at my bales and I can tell that I've got rodents in here pretty bad. In fact, I got a bunch of baking soda. I want to try that. You guys have suggested this to me many times, to mix baking soda with peanut butter, and it's non-toxic like to dogs or cats or owls or anything else, but it will kill rats and mice if they eat that. And I'm thinking I just want to put little dishes of that mixture like all throughout that barn because I know that I've got a problem in there. And part of it is my fault because I cut the hay late, and when you do that, the oats and the wheat have a chance to make a more complete seed head, and that the rodents love that. So if you can cut it earlier, it's so much better because the hay quality is better and the rodents don't like it as much. But the problem that I often run into is that if I try to cut it early, the weather is just kind of erratic during that time of year, and the chances of getting the crop rained on are a lot higher. Plus, you have to kind of wait for some conditions to be right. Like if the ground in the hayfield is really wet and you cut it, it'll take that hay a lot longer to cure because as the top of it is curing, the bottom of it is pulling moisture out of the ground. And I do have the New Holland hay rakes now. We might end up utilizing those, but I kind of try to not do that with the forage hay because so just kind of a disclaimer, I know that the way I make hay is very different than the way that most people do it in other parts of the country, but actually in California, this is a very common way of doing it, just because our climate and everything is different. But what we will do with the forage hay is you cut it with a swather, which leaves it in a windrow on the ground, and then you can wait like 7 to 10 days and just don't touch it, and it'll be ready to bale. So I know, so a lot of people waiting that long to bale is just unthinkable, and nobody really does it that way. But the reason that we do it that way is because if you don't rake it, it feeds into the baler a lot better, and that's, if you, well, a couple things. When you rake it, it's just another time you got to get out in the field. It's time, it's money, it's all those things, and if and then you lose some color as well. So if we can get away with not raking it, that's ideal. But if you're up against weather or something like that, you certainly can rake the forage hay and bale it that way. And now I have that option, because before, if I wanted to rake it, I had to go find someone that would let me borrow their equipment, and I don't like doing that if I don't have to. So now I don't have to. So that's good. Okay, I see Caleb asking, when are we going to sell calves? That is going to have to wait until January. I have to wait for the new year, basically, to sell them. So I'm thinking, I don't know if we're going to have that many. What did I come up with? We ran 35 over the scale, I believe, and I'll probably keep, I don't know, at least four heifers, but maybe 5, just because I really like a lot of these heifers. And I guess I need to think of it more like not just a certain number. I mean, I want at least 3 every year. I want to keep at least 3, but I think this year I wouldn't mind keeping a couple more, just because I like this calf crop. And then I think we'll probably keep like 8 to 10 steers again, like normal. So let's just say we hold back 15, and that means we've got 20 that we can sell. So unfortunately, that's 2 trips. That's, I think, boy, if I had a little bit bigger trailer, I think I could fit 20 calves in it and make that in 1 trip, but it's probably not worth, buying a new trailer just for that. The problem, especially with a new trailer, I think for that trailer that I have, it's only a 16-foot, but it's aluminum, and I haven't really had too many issues with it. You guys have seen me do a little bit of welding on it, but not much. But I bought that used in probably, gosh, what year would that have been? Maybe 2008, 2009, maybe 2010. And I think I only paid like $8,500 for that. So let's see. I'm seeing we got a scammer going in here. Let me see. Sorry, you guys. I'm gonna try to find. What was his name? Kevin Collins. All right. Let's go there. All right. Let me know if that worked. I put him on timeout for 24 hours. That's the verbiage that YouTube uses. So there we go. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I see some of you guys coming through here. I should watch this a little more closely. I probably need a moderator. Yeah, maybe we'll look into doing that in the future. But yeah, if you guys see anybody else that's misbehaving, we're not going to tolerate that. So let me know, and I'll put them on timeout too. I'm a dad. I can put people on timeout. Let's see here. Now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Calves, I think. So yeah, calves. Shoot, I don't remember where I was going with it. You know what? I probably said enough about it. Let's move on to the next thing. What do we got here? Okay, I see some people asking about ordering beef. That's another thing. I hope that is coming soon. So I can't remember if I've talked about this yet or not. But I did make contact with the nearest USDA butcher that we have in this area, which for me is like 3 hours away. So it's not right around the corner, but it's not terribly far either. So I spoke with him on the phone for a little bit, and it sounded like he's a good guy. And he when you talk to some people and they kind of like motivate you or make you just, I don't know, that's how he was. So he made me feel good about this idea of doing that. I think we're probably going to start with sending 2 up there, or maybe 3. And then what my plan is to sell like box beef locally at first, and we'll see how that goes. If that works well, or if we're not moving enough, then I might go down the route of trying to do online. It just, I don't know. That introduces a lot of hurdles that I'm not really quite sure exactly how to handle, as far as packaging it and shipping it and all of that sort of thing. So it's something that I would like to eventually be able to do, but I'm not sure that it's going to be anytime soon. But yeah, if people are close enough or within driving distance, and you would be interested in buying a small quantity like that, when we get to that point, you guys know how to get my email, and yeah, we'll go from there. Yeah, nobody wants to drive to California. I don't know, some people might not realize, but when you drive into California, I've heard people compare it to like going into another country, because there is checkpoints. They will stop you and they want to see if you have any produce with you, because what it is, it's called an ag inspection point, and they're looking for like any sort of produce, any kind of food that might be carrying pests on it. I don't know if any other states do this. To me, this has always been normal because I grew up here. But I know that when I travel outside of the state and go into other states, it's really nothing more than a sign. But yeah, when you drive into California, they're going to ask you if you have any produce. And, some people, that might throw them off a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, I would think any states that have a lot of diverse agriculture would probably do that, and it's just a precautionary thing. I don't know if it really works or not, I mean, they might catch something here and there, but they're certainly not going to catch everything that way. I mean, half the time, especially if you have California plates on your vehicle, they just wave you right on through and don't even stop you. But, that's what it is. So, yeah, I'm thinking January for calves, which Actually, I wish that I could sell them about now, but you know, just for like tax reasons and when your income happens, we have to wait until the next year. Otherwise, it would show like a double income for this year, which is, you know, boring little details that probably nobody cares about. But that's why I have to wait. So I have seen some people asking about the LS, which is actually what I drove over here with, because I've been using the LS to feed the bales out in the field. And that's just because I've got, you guys remember, I've got all the 6-foot big bales. And, you know, I know I'm repeating myself. I've said it before. The 8N will pick them up and it'll move them around the yard here on good ground that's not rough or bumpy or anything like that. But I don't think that it would make it out into the field. I think there would be so much weight on the front of that tractor that if I hit like a rock or anything, that it would just tip forward. So I've been using the LS to feed all the big bales because the loader on this is rated to lift over 5,000 pounds. Now, the other day I lifted those 2,000-pound sacks of feed, and I did notice the tires squishing out a little bit. So I think if I was going to try to lift more than that, I'd put a little bit more air pressure in the tires. Right now, I've got them a little bit low because I've been doing field work. And when you do field work, you want lower air pressure because it increases your contact patch with the ground, which not only gives you better traction, but gives you less compaction. Upon delivery, the front tires were actually pretty good, but the back tires were a little overinflated, I thought, which is fine. You know, if you're gonna make an error, probably better to be on the overinflated side. But where did I see on these? Yeah, so they say that the rated inflation pressure is 18 psi for these big tires. These things are big. They're not quite as tall as me, but they are almost. I dropped these down to 10 psi. I might even drop them down to 8 because I like to see my lugs on the ground touching the ground the whole way across. So like when I took delivery on it, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not. This is probably really better something to talk about in a video, not a live stream. But when you have like a little gap between the lug and the ground, see, like here I can put my finger under that. To me, that means you have too much pressure in your tire. I like to see a little bit of sidewall squish. In fact, the 8N will be a better example because these tires are broken, so you can really see it a little bit better. But see on the 8, it almost looks like it's like going flat, but it's not. It's like this on purpose. So that gives you better traction. It gives you better, what would be the word? It doesn't compact the ground as much. And people might think that's kind of like a BS claim, but I've seen them where they do, not really a study, but an experiment where they buried these like load sensors, or I don't know if that's really what it was, but basically you would run over the load sensor and it would register a PSI number, right? So when they overinflated the tires, they ran over the load sensor. Let's say it registered like 30 PSI. So that's the pounds, or not pound, I don't know. I'm not explaining this very well. Anyway, it's how much pressure the weight of the tractor was putting on the ground. Well, when they deflated the tires down to the proper air pressure, that number was like cut in half. So it does actually make a pretty big difference as far as ground compaction, which especially this year I've been working the ground when it's been not wet, but a little bit damp. Compaction is a little bit more of a concern, you know, and the bigger tractor, but the tires are big, so it shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, so far, this tractor's been amazing. I love it. And what I've really noticed about it that I did not expect, I mean, like I knew the cab would be nice. That's obvious. I knew the power would be good because it's a little bit more than what I had before. But what I didn't expect is how smooth this thing rides, like over a disked up field. And I think that's for two reasons. For one, the diameter of the tires is a lot bigger. So in turn, it just kind of floats on top of stuff a little bit better. But then also the air ride seat that this thing has. I just realized, I left the door open and the lights on in there. But yeah, those two things put together, I mean, it's pretty comfortable. Like yesterday, I spent 9 hours in it, and I didn't really have any complaints other than the normal ones that you always get when you drive tractor. You got to remember to stop and get up and walk around a little bit every so often, or, just sitting in one spot for 9 hours is a little rough, but excuse me. So yeah, the LS has been great. I'm thankful that I get to work with that company. The people that are there are awesome. That tractor, when did I get that? September, I think. And I've almost got 50 hours on it already, which is a lot. It's a lot more than I actually thought I would get on it. And the only thing that I can really think of or the reason why I'm racking up the hours so fast, is because it's like every job that I do, I want to use that one just because the loader is strong, the cab is nice. It's just like I'll use that tractor on jobs when it's probably overkill, but just because I like running it. So yeah, the hours are racking up quick, but it's been great. So I figured since we're up walking around, we come see how the calves are doing with their hay. I put a couple new bales in here the other day, and they're moving through it. Actually, a little bit more than I thought they would. I thought they'd spend a lot more time grazing than they have. But I think, the hay is just something different. And this kind of hay that I feed them, they say has a lot of sugar in it. So it's probably, they like the taste of it, I guess. But yeah, they're doing good. Look at this guy right here. He's gonna hold still. That's number 7. That's the biggest calf of the year. He was 780 pounds, I think, was his weaning weight, which is just crazy. I mean, that's I've only had the scale for a short while, but I would bet that's probably the heaviest weaning weight I've ever had. I looked at my calves last year, and the heaviest weaning weight was 740, I think. It was in the sevens, but it was not like approaching 800 like he is. And that's actually something that I talked about a little bit in the video I started filming yesterday, but I want to talk about it now too. And that is, a lot of people asked about the calf crop comparing this year to last year, because last year all of those calves would have been sired by those Black Angus bulls, one that I had bought and then another one that I had borrowed. But they were both Black Angus bulls. And then this year's calf crop obviously is out of our bulls, the bulls that you guys know, Rivet and Little Boy. And a lot of people were wondering how did they compare? So I went back and looked at the numbers from last year, and then they were actually not incredibly different. They were somewhat the same. I think this year's calves averaged like 10 pounds heavier, or maybe it was 15. It was a little bit heavier, but not a ton, right? So I was kind of thinking like, I was expecting, to see some sort of a difference there. But then I remembered that we moved our calving season this year. So these calves are a little bit heavier, but they're also like 2 weeks younger. And 2 weeks may not sound like much, but when they're gaining on average about 2.5 pounds a day, which is pretty normal for them at this age, 2 weeks it's kind of a big deal. So I think that, one of my really big concerns with scooting out my calving season was, I figured I'd pay for it with the weaning weights because they would be lighter, they would just have to be because they were younger. But that didn't end up being the case. In fact, they were a little bit heavier. I probably could have pushed them out a month and they would be roughly the same. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And a lot of people actually, when I got Rivet, said that, you're going to get discounted on the calves because they're not going to be black. And if you're not familiar with this, the Black Angus Association's done a fantastic job with marketing that breed, and to the point where buyers will actually pay more for black-hided cattle because they can charge more for them on the other end of it. And it's kind of silly in some way. Like I've heard that even a Holstein, which is a milking breed, if you get a Holstein steer that's mostly black or that's crossed with a Black Angus bull, that even that calf will fetch a premium when the quality is not going to be as good as like what one of Rivet's calves would be. So there is this discount that you hear about for cattle that aren't dark hided. I've never really noticed that to be significant. It's like in previous years when I've brought calves that were out of that Hereford bull that we had a few years ago. So a lot of them were red white face, some of them were black white face, some of them were just black. That year, when I took them to the sale, it's not like they separated the black ones and sold them separately. They sold them all together, and so it's difficult to know if there was a discount there or not. But I think what you could lose potentially on cattle that are not black hided, you make up for with the genetic diversity or the hybrid vigor that you gain from using those other breeds, which translates into pounds. So you might get less per pound, but you're making more pounds. So it's kind of a wash. Plus, that's just talking about steers. Now you're making really good females for your replacement program. So you don't really lose anything in the short term on the price, and then you gain these good females to put back in your herd in the long term. So I'm a fan of crossbreeding. I think that if you're not purposely raising purebred for like seed stock, which would be like breeding stock, if you're not doing that, you should be crossbreeding 100%. So looking, I know I saw in the chat, I glanced and saw someone asking about the long-term plans for the bulls. And I think, so I have been thinking about this too. When you sit on a tractor for 9 hours, you can think about a lot of stuff. So next breeding season, we will have Rivet's daughters, potentially some of Little Boy's daughters that will be of breeding age. So I was thinking that I will have to separate the bulls and the herd for breeding in order to prevent them from breeding their daughters. But then as I thought about it more, I thought, well, how did I breed heifers this year? I bred them over at the steer pasture, and I took the Bismarck bull over there. So I'll be able to do that same thing again this year. I can take the heifers to the steer pasture, Bismarck bull can go with them. That way we ensure that we're not getting any father-daughter breedings on accident. And I'll be able to just run these boys with the main cow herd and just run them all together. It's a lot easier to do it that way. The year after that, I can either, consider selling these bulls and getting different ones, or at that point, then I would have to separate the herd for breeding. So it's a lot more management to do that, and it is something where I feel like, once I just do it, I'll probably realize that it's not really that difficult to do. But as I think about how to do it, it seems kind of daunting, just how I can make it work, because remember, I'm rotating through the pasture and I'm also having to irrigate behind the cows. So doing that when everyone's together is fairly easy, or at least we know how to do it. We've been doing it for a while. Now I'd be splitting them into two separate herds, and I could just see it getting really complicated with keeping the water on the right schedule, keeping the cows moving, and all that. So I won't have to worry about that this year, because I'll have the ability to breed heifers at the other pasture. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The other thing is, as much as I like these bulls, I would love to get a Hereford bull, and have that Angus, Sim Angus, Hereford cross going, which some of these females will be. Like some of Rivet's daughters this year came out of like that really big heifer. Remember, she was like 760 pounds if you watch that video. Excuse me. So she was Rivet's daughter out of a cow that was half Hereford and half Angus. So she's an awesome mix of three good breeds, and pretty well concentrated of all of them. So females like that are ones that I would like to keep and keep producing, but that's the thing about heterosis and hybrid vigor, which I use those words basically mean the same thing, and it just speaks to the difference in the genes, basically. We could get really in depth on all that, but basically it's just how genetically diverse they are. And so yeah, that's kind of what we're shooting for with commercial cows. Let's see, I've been ignoring the chat. Do I like Brahmas? No, I don't, not at all. So I know why people have Brahma or Brangus or any of those. We call them eared cattle because they got the great big ears. They're very heat tolerant, and if you live in that sort of a climate, they're great for that. But we don't. I mean, it does get hot here, but it's not like I don't think we get hot enough to justify those breed influences. There was a guy around here that raised Brangus for a few years, and those were the wildest cattle. I mean, they had a reputation around here of just like, his cows were so crazy. In fact, I'll tell you another story. I don't know if some people might not like this story, but it really speaks to the attitude of the cattle. So I'm going to share it. But so this guy had these Brangus cows, and his property was near the railroad tracks, which he was south of here a little ways. Anyway, one of his bulls got out. It was a Brangus bull, and I don't remember when this was. It was a while ago, but these guys were chasing this bull, trying to catch him. The bull was coming after him, trying to gore him. I think they were chasing him on a four-wheeler, and they chased this bull for miles. I mean, covered ground, hours. They're trying to get him, because a lot of times with you hear like horse trainers talk about this. if, and it's true with cattle too, if they're not cooperating, if you just kind of tire them out a little bit, then a lot of times they will start being a little more cooperative. So you would have thought, as far as they chase that bull, that he would start to mellow out and do what they were wanting. But that's not what happened. So they're chasing him. Every time they got near him on a four-wheeler, he'd turn around and try to get him. And he just got so on the fight that they just couldn't even get close to him anymore. And it got, like I said, they were near the train tracks down there, and a train was coming. And you probably know where I'm going with this. Well, that bull was so fired up and so mean that he decided he was going to take on the train. And that's exactly what he did. And the train's coming this way. The bull just started charging at it this way. And, well, the train won. And after hearing that story about Brangus cattle, I just wasn't really too interested in them. I see Sharon is asking about snakes. So I have not. It's been too cold for them now. I think they're probably going under. You might see one sunning itself out there today, but I think more or less it's been too cold. They're probably looking to hibernate right now. And that rattlesnake that I showed you guys, that's only the second one I've ever seen out there. I've been growing hay in that field for, gosh, I want to say maybe 10 to 15 years. I don't remember actually exactly how long it's been. But in all the time, I've only seen 2 rattlesnakes out there. The one that I showed you guys, and then there was one a couple years ago. I think I actually put that in a video too. But it was, like I say, several years ago. And I mean, I know they're out there because we're along the levee, and I think they kind of like to hang out in the river bottoms there. But I've never actually seen one here. So we're about 3 miles from the hayfield, just kind of due east of it, so away from the river. And everything here is farmed, you know. So rattlesnakes aren't really something that I worry about here. I see gopher snakes and garter snakes all the time, but I don't worry about them because they're not poisonous, and they're probably doing a lot of good for the ecosystem. Even though, you know, the thing about snakes, I know they're good. I get it. They serve a purpose. They're good. We need them, all that. But I just don't like them, you know? There's something about a snake, you can have it. That's just not for me. Like people that have them as pets and drape them all up, I mean, what? I don't know what that is. To each your own, you know, if that's what you're into, that's great, but that's not what I'm into. Yeah, I see people talking about that milk cow again. You know, I got a taste of that a little bit this spring with number 26 when we had her up here, and I was having to milk her into the bottle every day. And I just don't see really having time for that. You know, there's times of the year when I could do it and fit it in the schedule, no problem. But the thing of it is, you know, if you can't do it every day, then you just can't really do it. And I know, you know, we looked into like calf sharing with the milk cow and letting the calf nurse. And that's, you know, usually what people do, they'll milk the cow themselves in the morning and let the calf stay with her the rest of the day and nurse. Then they'll separate the calf at night, you know, so that they've got a fresh supply of milk that they can harvest in the morning. So we kind of looked into doing that. But what I would worry about with calf sharing like that is if you got to where you're just leaving the calf with the cows because you don't need milk, right? Because you're not going to need a gallon or 2 every single day. So if you just start leaving them together a lot, eventually the cow, when you do try to get in and milk her, she's not going to be very cooperative. I mean, it takes a while. I think they need to like stay on a routine to really be a good milk cow Yeah, good meaning cooperative. And I just, I, I don't know that I would do that, you know. And it's a big time and money investment to to jump into that, and I just don't think we're there. Maybe when the kids are a little bit older and they can be a part of it, I might feel differently, but right now I think that my plate's pretty full as it is, and adding something like that is just doesn't seem like a good idea, not at this point at least. So that's where we're at with the milk cow. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would like to have one, and I would like to have like what you get from one. Um, but you know, I just don't think now is the right time. So yeah, I'm sure you can milk one a lot faster than the way I was doing it. But still, it's just the fact of getting out there every day, getting her in the stanchion, and you know, even if you could milk it quick, or even if I had a machine, like I actually looked into it, they make milking machines for just a single cow, and you know, but even there, I feel like there's a training period that the cow has to go through, you know, to do it. So it's not. I'm not saying never. I'm just saying not right now. We'll leave it at that. Go through the comments here. I see Jason's asking about Pete from Just a Few Acres. We've never like talked on the phone or anything like that, but I know I watch him. He's said that watches me. I don't know if he still does or not, but um, yeah, we've communicated just a little bit like through the comments, but I don't like have his phone number or anything like I do with some people. So let's see. Am I planning to buy a new pickup, a new truck in the future? Well, yes and no. I would like to get a new one at some point, but I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the price of a new diesel truck nowadays. It's just ridiculous. So I don't see actually getting a brand new one, but yeah, at some point I would like to get a different one. Just because I don't know. Look, I know a lot of people that own Fords that own pretty much the same truck that I have, and they love them. They have been great, but that has not been my experience with that truck. I've had a lot of problems with it. Um, in fact, the one that's kind of ongoing, if anyone listening to this is a mechanic, I, at this point will take anyone's advice or thoughts on this. When the truck is trying to tow at altitude, it overheats. And I've had it to the Ford dealer. They couldn't tell me anything was wrong with it. I thought maybe the fan clutch wasn't working properly and it wasn't turning on, you know, when we're trying to pull hills at altitude. They told me that they checked it and it all checked out. Everything was fine. So I just don't believe that a 1-ton diesel can't pull a camper up a hill, because it's kind of what they're designed to do. But, you know, that's they couldn't really tell me what was the matter. So yeah, an older truck would be great. I wish, you know, if a person could see the future, right? I wish in 2002 or I think early '03 they made they still put the 7.3 diesel in a Ford. If I could have got one of those and just taken care of it, you know, I'd probably still be driving it today. But um, they're so complicated now. A modern diesel is so complicated with all the emission stuff, and they've got to, you know, do all the, you know. So the thing about a diesel, why people I think loved them so much, or why they gained such a following in the beginning, is because they basically took a tractor engine and put it in a truck. Um, if you look at like the old Fords had international diesels in them. Even the first generation Cummins was had a mechanical injection pump and was just dirt simple. And because of that, they were super reliable and would just run forever. That's really not the case anymore. You know, I see all the Ford acronyms coming in. I guess weird in the fact that I'm not really brand loyal especially when it comes to trucks. I think, you know, every brand you can think of, you've got people that love them and people that hate them. And I think the engineers at this point probably all went to the same schools, and they probably all have the same knowledge. Maybe some people or some companies aren't willing to build a quality vehicle, or things happen in the manufacturing process. I mean, at this point, I don't think this has always been true, but I think at this point that they're all from a quality standpoint pretty similar. I think that maybe we just got a bad one or something. I don't know. I mean, I've seen people with new Cummins trucks that have a ton of problems. Duramax, it doesn't matter. There's going to be good ones and bad ones from every brand. And I know this is not probably a popular opinion because people get very serious about the truck brands that they like. Yeah, I think the best truck I ever had was a Toyota, actually. And I've always said if Toyota made a full-size diesel, that's probably what I would get, but they don't make it, so. Yeah, I know. It's hard to argue with it. I know. Yeah, the manufacturers are probably not allowed to build the truck that they would like to build in a lot of cases because of restrictions and regulations and all that. And that's probably true, but you can sit here and complain about that, or just, there's nothing we can do about it. That's just how it is now. So I don't know. The problem about buying like an older truck is, excuse me, you couldn't hardly find one with low miles at this point to be in that like pre-emissions era. And if you did, these are diesel trucks. They were built to work. So whatever you can find now from the early 2000s or even the mid 2000s is going to have a ton of miles on it. It's going to have been worked, and the best truck in the world, if you work it, is going to break eventually. So I don't know. Reliability would be a concern. So, what can I tell you? It's kind of a, it's not a happy subject. Yeah, Ford 350 diesel, that's what I have. And it's great, and until we get it into the altitude. And then you try to pull a hill and just watch that temperature gauge start rising. I don't know what's going on with it, but, and what irritated me was that I took it to the dealer because I'm thinking, all right, they work these all the time. They should know, right? So they assured me they checked everything. And they told me that my radiator was dirty, which I'm sure it was because you see how the truck gets used. I'm sure it was dirty. So they told me that that was the problem. And they cleaned it out, and which I guess was quite the ordeal. They got to remove it from the truck and all this. So that didn't change a thing. But after they did the work, he said, well, if it's still doing it, bring it back and we'll, I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically if it still overheats, to bring it back. And I'm thinking, well, why would I bring it back to you? You've already told me that you checked everything in the cooling system. So if you didn't find anything, then, what good are you going to do now? So I don't know. So yeah, a gasoline V8, I don't know. Once you get used to the power of a diesel, it's hard to go back to a gas engine. That's the problem. So we'll see. I don't anticipate getting a new truck anytime soon. I think my wife needs a new car before I need a new truck. So That's probably who's going to get a new vehicle first. All right. So my truck is a 2016, which is supposed to be like a really good year. So I would shudder to think what a bad year looks like. Man. Let's see. I see a lot of people in this chat, and then also in that community post yesterday. A lot of people are asking, and even in the comments and like all the videos, people are saying that, you know, Callie needs a friend and we need to get another dog. And yeah, I guess the way my thought on that is, I mean, eventually we'll get another dog. I'm not saying that I'll never get another dog, but I think just not yet. I don't know. After losing Belly the way that we did, and even, you know, years back losing Sadie the same way, it just it's not a fun thing to go through. And I, you know, I would actually like to get another border collie at some point. People often say I need a stock dog to help me, and I don't disagree at all. I think that would be helpful to have one. But, you know, I thought I had a good handle on Belly. I really did think that. I mean, I spent a lot of time teaching her to stay out of the road, and, you know, I even told myself, like, we're not going to have the same thing happen to her that happened to Sadie, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So it makes you kind of question your training methods. It makes you question, you know, if you know what you're doing, I guess. And like I said, we'll get another one at some point, but I'm not there yet. You know, we'll usually when it comes to dogs, they find you, you don't find them. And the thought of like actually seeking out a breeder and going to try to get one that way, I don't think we'll probably do that. But I think in time, the situation will present itself to where we get another one. And a lot of people have suggested an invisible fence, and we might do that. I might do a non-invisible fence, because I oftentimes think, you know, shoot, every once in a while a calf gets out. You know, they can climb through the bars or whatever, and it might not be a terrible idea to just have that fenced in along the road anyway for calves or dogs or kids. I mean, nothing needs to be out in that road except the vehicle. You know what I mean? So, oh wow, Betty, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very generous. A lot of people are popping in saying they caught the live for the first time. So I guess doing them at different times on different days is I guess a good idea, because I know a lot of people, you know, when I was doing them before, you guys were missing them, and, you know, we want to try to give everybody a chance to see one. So I see Farm Girl's question about, I'm kind of moved. I feel like it's windy, even though no one's saying anything, but I'm going to try to hide from it anyway. We'll get back here. Oh, my leg. I'll talk about that in a minute. So as far as like editing videos, I have seen that question pop up a few times, so I'll go ahead and answer it, even though I'm not sure it's something everybody cares about. But so a lot of channels or a lot of guys that I talk to, I don't know how they do it, but they, like, when you see videos post from them, that's something they might have filmed 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they are just that far ahead on their filming and their editing and all of that stuff. And more power to them. I wish I could do that, but that's not the way I operate. I'm lucky if I can get a couple days ahead. More often than not, what happens is I'll film and I'll edit it that night and I'll post it the next morning. So when you're seeing content from me, it is almost always very, very fresh. And I just have kind of like got a routine as far as days that I know I will film on, and then I have days of the week that I don't work and we'll spend time with the family. So we've kind of got this all like scheduled out so that it works, and then I can upload the videos on the days that you guys are used to seeing them. But what that often means, especially with like a more complicated video, like there's some videos that I've filmed just using one camera. Those edit fairly quickly because you're not pulling footage from a bunch of different things. But like anytime I'm working the cows, or even like tractor driving videos can be more complicated. Every time you add another camera to get another angle, you basically add like another hour or more to the editing process. But you know, you kind of have to do that too, because especially with working the cows, those honestly, those videos take the longest, because you pretty much have to set up a bunch of cameras in a bunch of different spots, because the cows don't stop and wait for you to move cameras. You gotta have stuff set up so that it catches things as they happen, and you don't miss those shots that you want to catch. Like what the other question I've been seeing a lot about, my leg. When that happened, and I guess this is where you know your the way you think about things is changing. Because as soon as that happened, I'm thinking, I hope one of the cameras got that. That was my first thought. When I realized I could still walk, was, man, I hope a camera got that. So, whoops, sorry about that. So yeah, my leg is fine now. It was pretty sore there for a couple of days. The day that it happened, or actually, should we say the moment that it happened, you know, I definitely knew that the calf got me, but it didn't actually hurt that much. And I think part of that was just due to adrenaline, or, you know, you're just up and moving around, and you know, when the adrenaline kind of wears off, then you start to get a better sense of like how much this is going to hurt. So that day, or finishing up that job, it was hurting. It was making me limp a little bit. I was trying to kind of hide that on camera because I didn't want to be hopping around like a peg leg pirate. But when I really knew that I was in trouble was when I got home that night and sat down and ate dinner. You know, and I was sitting in the chair for, I don't know, maybe an hour. And then I went to get back up, and it was like, it was bad then, you know, because your body kind of calms down, and you know, your heart slows down a little bit, your circulation slows down, and man, it was rough. That first couple days, you know, was pretty bad, but we're good now, so nothing much else to say about it. I know a lot of people were asking about my bruise, or what my bruise looked like, and you know, it really wasn't that bad. You could kind of see like the outline of his hoof, but I was expecting my whole knee to kind of turn purple, and it never really did that. It did kind of swell, but it didn't really bruise that badly. So there wasn't really much to show there. And in fact, I told my wife, I said, you know, I wish it looked as bad as it feels, because you probably think I'm a wimp. So, Jubilee. People are always, you know, it's funny. People always ask about the Jubilee, but when I post videos about it, they never do that good. So it's kind of a strange thing. But be that as it may, there's videos coming. Right now I'm so busy that I just don't have time to work on a project like that, because while it is going to be super cool when it's done, and I'm going to probably wish that I would have got it done a long time ago, the fact is I don't really need it to operate, you know? So it's more of a passion project, for lack of a better term. Um, but it's still in pieces in the shop, it occupying an entire side of the shop. Oh, wow. Suzanne, thank you so much. That's, man, you guys are awesome. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to do stuff like that. That's really incredible. But yeah, the Jubilee, it's occupying a whole side of the shop. And I've got a bunch of parts. There's still a few. I guess I'm going to have to call the outfit that I get parts from, because I need pistons and rings, is basically what I'm missing at this point. I think I have everything else. And the pistons that I pulled out of it are 40 over, which, if you're not a mechanic or engine person, 40 over just means that they're a little bit bigger than what they would have been from the factory. So as a result, when you put new pistons back in, if you don't do any machining on the block, then you need to make sure that you put the same size. Like if I put factory size pistons back in the block, they would be rattling around there, and it wouldn't probably even run, because it wouldn't make compression. So I need 40 over pistons for it. And the place that I order parts from appears to have them, but I guess you have to call and order them directly, which I'm guessing, oh, Mona, thank you. You guys, seriously, you don't have to do that. I mean, I greatly appreciate it. It's always, your generosity is humbling. So I do appreciate it, but please don't feel like you have to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm guessing the parts house probably has a lot of people ordering the wrong size pistons, and returns and all that. So that's probably why they make you call to order them. So I need to do that, and then it's just a matter of cleaning stuff up and painting it. Sorry, I got distracted by the comments. It happens. Last one here is saying, what breed is Rivet? Rivet is I guess you would call it a composite breed, which a composite breed is an intentional cross that you like replicate. So maybe that's not the right term for him, but he is a Sim Angus, a registered Sim Angus. And to be a Sim Angus, you have to be, what is it? I don't actually remember what the breed regulations say, but I know what he is. He is half Black Angus, 3/8 Simmental, and 1/8 Charolais. So a lot of people look at him and think he's a Charolais because of his color. When actually, if you actually see, a Charolais is much whiter than Rivet is. Rivet is more of like a tan color almost, which, side note, ironically, one of his daughters, one that I probably will keep, is like perfectly white. I mean, she's like white as snow, which is interesting. Most of them came out that kind of smoky, grayish brown color, but this one heifer is just like really white. So kind of cool. But that's what breed he is. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, he's only an 8th Charolais, which is where that color comes from. But and I would have to have somebody explain this that knows more about like color and genetics and all that. But that white, or I guess technically you call it brown in the breeding world, but whatever color he is must be dominant. And it almost looks like it oftentimes mixes with black or mixes with red, and it's not, because like his calves just came out every color you could think of. There was one that was like a butterscotch color, couple that were just like a typical red, like a red Angus, that white heifer, the gray one. Um, you know, it and potentially some of the black calves could be his too. That's what I'm not sure of, and that will be the interesting thing if I do end up separating the bulls for breeding, is to see if he actually does make black calves. Because I've heard it said that when you run two bulls, that oftentimes one bull will do like upwards of 80% of the breeding, and the other one is the obviously would be the less dominant bull, and they just don't breed as many. And I believe that to be true because when I ran a Black Angus and a Hereford bull together, like 90% of the calves came out, and you knew they came out of that Hereford bull just because of their coloring. Um, so it could very well be that some of the black calves are his as well. I'm actually not entirely sure on that. When I bought him, Jeremy, the breeder, told me that he assumed most of his calves would be black, and that just didn't end up being the case. So if some of the black calves are his too, then he probably did breed like 80 or 90% of those cows, because probably about half or slightly more are a unique color that we know for sure came from him, and then the rest are black. So they could be, I guess they could be either. So I saw a question out of the corner of my eye. Okay, Nathan is asking, how much land per cow does a person need getting started? So he's in Indiana. I get this question all the time, all the time. How much land do I need to raise cows? And I wish that there was a black and white answer that I could give you. But the fact is it's really going to be different in everywhere. I mean, so for example, where I am at right here is different than it is 30 minutes that way. Or, you know, it you've got climate to consider, topography. Um, there are so many things that you need to to factor in to really answer this question. So my advice would be, if you're in Indiana or wherever you might be, look at other people that are raising cows, or if you can even talk to them and ask them, they will give you a much better idea of stocking rates and carrying capacity and all that sort of thing. And this can be affected by the breeds that you have, the way that you graze, if you rotate or don't rotate. Um, so I wish that I could help people with that question more, but usually my answer is, how many acres does it take for a cow? Well, it depends. To look at extremes, on this irrigated pasture, we can run about 1.5 cows per acre, 1 to 1.5 per acre. So that's pretty dense, really dense compared to a lot of other places. If you look at guys running cows on the high desert, they're looking at like 200 acres per cow. So it varies so greatly, and depends on so many things that it's just impossible for me to answer it accurately. I could answer it, but it wouldn't be right. So if you're looking at like you just want to raise one in a pen, let's say you're going to buy a drop calf or a wean calf or whatever you might end up getting, and you just want to raise it like in a dry lot, then that answer, I guess, would be more universal. And there is a square footage, not requirement, but guideline, I guess, that they use in feedlots and dairies. And I don't know exactly what it is. So if it was me and I was wanting to raise one that way, I would look at, I would just get on the internet and start searching like square footage requirements for dairy cows, square footage requirements in feedlots, and that would give you an idea of what they need to be comfortable. And then you know, I guess the other way to answer that is if you're going to have them in a dry lot, just give them as much space as you possibly can, because you can have too little of a pen, but you can't have too big of a pen. And the bigger it is, I think the more comfortable the animal and happier they're going to be, which, that makes us feel good and all, but it also has an effect on daily gain. If they're happy and comfortable, they're going to gain better, and you're not going to have to put as much money into them. So, um, yeah, that's a good point that Greg brings up. Yeah, having one by itself is, a lot of people say they actually do better when you have two, because when you have one by itself, it just kind of eats at its own leisure. If you have two of them together, they compete a little bit, and it causes them to gain better. So if I was looking to like raise a steer for my own family, if I was just going to do one for us, right, I'd go ahead and get two and see if you have a friend that wants it, or family, or, I have found that when you ask around, you'll find people that want it. Um, that's true now, probably more than ever. People are just concerned about the origin of their food, as they should be. And when you give them an opportunity to get something where they can verify how it was raised, where it came from, people are into that now. And I think that's a good trend. It's certainly good for someone like me that's kind of trying to make a business out of that. But I think that's awesome. That not only that people have the option to get that quality food, but that people actually care about it. Because yeah, it's literally what is sustaining your life. It's probably something you should care about. All right, I'm gonna grab a few more questions here. I've actually got a birthday party to go to this afternoon. Our son Matt is turning 3. His birthday is not today, but it is very close to now. And so yeah, I think today's the family party, tomorrow's the kid party, and then we've got his actual birthday, which will be like the immediate family party. Just Bree, Macy, and I, and Matt, of course. So we've got a lot of celebrating that we've got coming here in the next couple of days. But man, hard to believe he's 3 already. I kind of chuckle when we had Macy, which is our older daughter, our first child. People said, oh, enjoy the time when they're babies, enjoy the time when they're young, because it just flies right by. And as a new parent with a newborn, that just didn't seem like that could be true, just because your life is, gets flopped on its head, and you've got all these things to deal with that you've never had to deal with before. And, it's an adjustment, right? And when you're living, especially that first year, it kind of seems like it drags on, or at least it did for me. And but people were right. After it's over, now Macy's going to turn 6 this in about a month. Matt's turning 3 in a couple days, and yeah, it seems like we were just bringing him home yesterday. And that's what everybody says, and I never thought I'd be one of those people, but it's true. It's true. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, you think I'm one of those people, and one day when you do have them, you'll know too. All right, what else we got here? Oh, I'll answer this because it's a quick answer. The 8N does not have electronic ignition installed. I actually do have it sitting on the shelf, but I haven't put it on there yet. So I think I will at some point do it, but no, right now it's still running on points and condenser, and I actually haven't had trouble with any of that stuff. I've never really haven't had an issue with that tractor starting. I'm sure I will now that I've said that, but and I think it's because I run it so often that it's not been a problem. But I do just I don't know. You know, sometimes you start saying something and it makes you think of something. I'm just reminded of when I was a kid. My grandpa used to have this 53 Chevy pickup. He used to park it here in the barn. And it was, I wish we still had that truck. It was cool. But anyway, that was the truck that I actually learned to drive in when I was like 13 or 14. And I remember, you know, it had been sitting in the barn for a lot of years, and however it happened, but we decided we wanted to get it started up so that we could learn how to drive. And, you know, we got it cranking over and it wouldn't start. And, you know, as a kid, you're just thinking like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know. You just feel like, this thing's broken. It'll never start. So I could still remember my grandpa popping off the distributor cap and getting in there with some sandpaper. And I couldn't really tell what he was doing. I know now he was sanding the points. But he did that, and the truck just fired right up, just like that. And it just impressed me so much that, that for one, he was able to fix it that easily. But then also for two, I just couldn't believe that he just like knew exactly what to do, you know, and that always stuck with me. You know, and that wasn't like the first example of him doing something like that. He just always knew how to fix stuff. He knew what to do. And I don't know. I like to think that I've tried to kind of be that way too, but I'm sure I don't know now as much as he did. But maybe by the time I'm his age, I might have a bank of knowledge like that. You know, there's no substitute for experience. So how do I train the cows? I think you're talking about the steers to follow, to come on, boys. Um, you know, you could train them to come to anything. You know, it's like to an animal. These are just sounds that I'm making. You know, I could yell anything out there and get them to come, but the way you do that is easy. You have to rotationally graze. That's the first thing, and every time you open the gate to move them, you just start yelling whatever it is. Like Pete says, come on, cows. I say, come on, boys. Grandpa used to say, come, boss. So you can say whatever you want, but you just got to be consistent with it. And sometimes I think it doesn't even matter what you say. If you just yell something in the same tone, that they would probably respond to it. But yeah, just do that every time you open the gate to give them a new pasture. Pretty soon they realize when the human starts yelling and making noise, we better go over there and see what it is, because he's probably going to give us something that we like. So it's just, you know, like with dogs, it's the same way. It's just consistency, and, you know, you get them used to it. But yeah, I should try it one time. When I'm moving them, I should just yell something like totally random, but in the same kind of voice, the same kind of way, and see if they respond to it. Yeah, a lot of people use cubes or treats or something of that nature and shake it in a bucket, and that's very effective too. I worry. I mean, I don't have a huge herd of cows by any standard, but if I was using a bucket of cubes and they were all real excited about it, that could get dangerous. You'd have to like dump the cubes and just run, I guess, because they yeah, when they get excited, boy, you better look out. So, all right, well, I think I'm going to call this one here because I've got some other obligations that I need to get to, but I sincerely appreciate all of the super chats that you guys left, and just I appreciate you guys all showing up for the live streams. I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it is fun talking with you guys, and I know that I don't get nearly as many questions answered as I should. But I try. I get them as I can. And I know I've said it 100 times, but if I try to read questions and answer them at the same time, it just doesn't work. So, so we'll do it again soon. One of these days, I might even do a live stream, even when I don't miss a video, just to touch base with you guys. Sometimes, you know, we get so much going on that it's nice to have one of these to kind of get everybody caught back up. So, all right, I think we'll call it here, and look forward to talking. Ugh. See, that's the kind of thing I would edit out of a video. Get a little tongue-tied. I look forward to talking to you guys on the next one.